Because sometimes we
admire something outside, which is good, we can do that. But there is something beautiful about us that we need to also think about when we think ethics. And so here you look at Jesus Christ as the foundational stone on which Melanesian Christian ethics must be built. That's the first thing we need to know, which means Christ is the foundation. You remember we talk about Christ as our model? Now, that means he becomes the foundation. He becomes the example upon which we build our ethics. Now, first part in that is he is the head or chief or big man of the Melanesian Christian community, which means Jesus is the big man. Now, if Jesus is the big man, I'd like you to think about something of our
something of our big men societies and chieftain societies in Papua New Guinea. Now, if you think of Papua New Guinea, we do have of the house, Sister Leader. Okay. It is also not necessarily hereditary, but it is always the first daughter in every family that inherits. Not necessarily chieftain, but it's the woman leader. They call them matriarchs. Right? A lot of time we call patriarchs and matriarchs. In Papua New Guinea, there is not necessarily patriarchs. Because a lot of social scientists who are coming and doing studies, they're telling us that we are a patriarchal society. In some manner, yes. But not necessarily. We may be somewhere in the middle. Because in a patriarchal society, if you study the roots of what patriarch means, you find it in some other society than Melanesian. Why do I say that? Because in our societies, I am the father. When my child grows up and he gets married, he's a man of his own. He's not under my control. It's traditional. He has his wife, his children, and he's the one. But in a patriarchal society, as long as I am living, my son is under me. He carries out my commands. Do we do that in Papua New Guinea? No, because we are not a patriarchal society. Because every male person, when he is young and still under me, then the father has control over him. When he is married, he is regarded as a family. So the father does not interfere with him. And so that's the reason why sometimes social science is writing about patriarchal king. And I have lots of questions because we don't have that. So in the big man society, as long as my son gets married and he has his own family, he is the head of his family. I don't interfere until and unless something is not doing and going right. I can give him advice, but I don't rule over him. You see the difference? But if you go to some Middle Eastern countries and Asian countries, they are patriarchal. As long as the grandfather lives, the father under him, and the children born under him, they are all under him. When he dies, his first son takes over as the patriarch. The Israelites have that same kind of one. Not Melanesians. If someone comes to you a patriarchal, tell him how. Because he or she does not understand. They are being influenced by outside philosophies, beliefs. That's not true about us. Matriarchy. Matriarch, it's similar in that same manner. Because it's not necessarily that matriarch still is every other can't falls under. No. When a first daughter, probably a child will correct me, first daughter is born, she gets married, she is a matriarch of her family. The mother does not necessarily control her and say, you must, until I die, you take over. No, I think they have their family line must happen. But I do not think we can call this matriarch and patriarch thing here. Because I find it hard to believe it, because when I dig the roots, it does not paint a picture of us. We are totally different. All these anthropologists who come and study, they can't bring a picture from somewhere else and lump us into the same picture, which is not correct. Now that's something about leadership when we talk about this. Now I want you to think about our big men and chieftain kind of leaders, and how do you develop a system in which Jesus is a big man in your community in terms of ethics? Now how do you translate Jesus as a big man into a community, and when you as a leader living among the community, you represent Jesus as the big man in terms of ethics? Let's identify some big man mentality or attitude in our society. Give me one. Sorry? Okay, he has power or authority. The big man has power and authority. What else does the big man have? Okay, responsibility to look after the community. You speak into the mic so that the one from Lane Potmos can hear you. Okay, the right to select leaders. I'd like us to hold on to power and authority. That's one big thing the leader has. Now, any other things that happen because of the application of power and authority. Now, these two terms, we use them together, right? Power and authority. But you are theologians. You've got to dig down and find whether they mean the same thing or they mean different things. Because in other sciences where you study, as Weston last time said something about theology as the highest form of knowledge. Now, if you are believing that you are studying theology is the highest form of knowledge, you've got to find out very well, because sometimes these words can be used interchangeably, but may not mean the same thing. Power and authority both come from Greek and as well as Hebrew. Those words. Power comes from the term dynamo. Have you heard the word dynamo? How many of you from the coastal area know how to use dynamite for fishing? You're destroying fish, you don't do it. Now, dynamite is kind of a built-in energy. Sometimes I'm not a science person, don't ask science person. Those who study physics knows about that, what they call stored energy, which means power is stored. Now, after explosion, does the power still remain? No, the power is gone, because it's a stored energy. As soon as it is exploded, there's no more power in it. You must build it again to empower it to explode again. That is where the word power comes from. Kind of.
But authority comes from completely different word. And that word, I forgot what it means, something, sus. Yeah, anyway, leave the word alone. I'll find out and let you know in the next class. It comes from a term that means staying power. It does not explode. It's staying power. Now, did any of you sit here sometime walk into a horse race house I did play horse race sometime before when I was not a Christian. Any of you see horse race houses anywhere in your town you come from, where people go and tip the horses and they go and pay for a horse? Now, if you go and read the story, sometimes if we see the weather is not good, we look for a horse, they call it a stayer. A stayer is very heavy and it can run wet conditions and everything. When the lighter ones will go and slide and fall, but a stayer cannot fall. Because when everyone else falls, this one keeps going until it reaches the end. And so the horse race people actually know what a stayer is. And they look for a stayer. Because the stayer has an energy that cannot be broken by anything along the way. Whatever the weather, whatever thing, the stayer keeps going because the energy is a continuous energy. That's where the concept of authority comes from. Right? And authority is a staying power. It does not explode. It may look weak at times, but it's a staying power. So, you see the two differences? Now, those are two things that they call power and authority. All right. With those two terms as the...
Those whom you look after, or power can be used for personal benefit. Those observations you got to make when you are writing theology, when you are writing an ethical paper. Because in an ethical paper, you wanted to draw a picture of what is happening in your society in order to look at the model that Jesus painted. We talked about it already, covering quite a lot of ground last week and before last week on the kind of model Jesus painted as the leader of the newfound movement, which is you and I, who are part of it. How power is used you must make an observation. Because mostly now, power is now being used either for self-gain or for the benefit of those who gave you power. That's the first observation we make in leadership. Now, that may be same to chieftain societies. But in chieftain society, one major difference is that in a chieftain society, the chief himself is the law. Whatever he says, whether wrong or right, is true. Whether you like it or not, you must live by it. But in a big man society, if the big man makes a decision or make a law, he has others in mind because they are going to topple him because of his decision. The wrong decision comes, others will rally up around the other one to become a leader and he loses. So that protects him from becoming the law himself. So he cannot become a law himself, a big man. But it is becoming that now in our secular society. There are some things that make the big man a big man that you can think. He becomes a big man because of a position that is given to him, which is sometimes called a bestowed authority, power. It is not his, but it is given to him. And a good example is an elected leader. An elected leader is being empowered not from himself, by others. Others empower him. So that means when the election comes, and whoever you elect, you are empowering that person. And how he uses the power to control you or to benefit you, it's up to the kind of leader you elect. This is an example of bestowed power. The next power is administrative one. I am the principal of the college, but that authority, it is not mine. That authority is given to me by the council of the college. So which means a vested authority. So how I use that authority, I must use it for the honor of the council that appoints me and the service of the people that are under me. That's why it is given. But I can usurp that authority in the time frame that I'm given for self-service, which means I can use it to look after myself at the expense of the people who are here for me to look after, and at the dishonor of the council that selected me or asked me to become the principal. Right? That is the administrative one, the appointed or elected and the administrative. So we have kind of different kinds of leadership or leaders. So you will also find that in the church institutions, pastors are appointed, right? Now, when they are appointed, in that appointment, who is the one being honored in terms of the church? It's God. Now, have all those in mind. That's appointed, and power is not yours. It is a given gift that must be used for the good of the society you are asked to lead. And then power is also given in another form. Sometimes they call it you earn it. Now, when you earn power, it comes in different forms. Let me say, you come to CLTC and you study, then you will graduate with a bachelor's degree. Now, that degree does give you a form of power. Do you know that? You think you don't have power when you have a degree from me? Now, just think about when you graduate with a degree here and you go back, and the others, the way they look at you. Does the look change? Yes. Because now they recognize you as a degree holder. You have a power now. How you use that active energy or power in the community counts. You can use it to make others look small, or you can use it to make others look big with a degree. You know that? People can look at you and fear you because of your knowledge. Or you can use the knowledge and make others grow, and they treat you and see you as a friend. Two things you can do. Now, knowledge. I went and completed my doctoral degree and I'm here. You may not see it, but it creates what people call an invisible space. Did I tell you about something like this before? Did you hear it? No. An invisible space, when you have power, is that although you are greeting me, but you can feel the space. Because I have a doctoral degree, you were discussing some, little things over here, and I come around and everybody's smiling. Why are you quiet? You know why you're quiet? Yes, because you fear me hearing it. You see how power creates unnecessary invisible spaces? Now, one of you will graduate and go and they appoint you as the president of your church. Now, when you arrive, can they fill the space? Yes. Now, you will have to work really hard to preach the space as a leader and someone with power. That is the difficult part when you have that kind of power. Your wife and children will not feel that power, let me tell you, but your congregation will feel it. Scammers are not growing times. They always try to scam me from the NGBC and not paying over here. I just had a voice here and I take and I see that this is scammer talking about me at the NGBC. Anyway, scammers are not growing times. They're working very, very hard. Now, those are some things you must identify in order to develop a basis or a foundation of contextual theology, seeing Jesus as a big man. Now, if Jesus is introduced as a big man in the society, what is Jesus' model of applying power? That's how you create a comparison and create something beautiful for your community. What did Jesus say about power? Can you say something about power? We discussed that plenty of times. Yes, power is for service. Full stop. Nothing else. Now, if you are to introduce Jesus as a big man in your community, you are going to paint a picture of a perfect big man and say, okay, you are a big man, measure against this big man, and see if you fit the model. If you're not fitting that model, then you need to rethink. I think probably you are not a Christian big man. You are still a Melanism big man. Because some of us, currently as we speak, are actually Melanism big men in our churches. Whether you like it or not, they are Melanism big men. They like the honor. They like big men. They want more money. It's happening. They come up with all sorts of different ways to add more titles to themselves. One of my friends actually came to CLBC and said to everyone, and he forced CLBC spiritual to make him become a rebel. And former principal actually endorsed them, prayed over him, and he became a rebel. I won't tell you more. Because people are looking for titles to make them look bigger than the rest, create more distance. These are some things you can look at in order to create a bridge for people to understand Jesus as a big man. Now, if Jesus had to be used as a big man, a model needs to be created based on the scriptures. And as a model, Jesus was his disciples' feet. A object lesson for a Melanism big man. Washing the feet demonstrates the real application of power. If I am appointed a bishop, the real application of power is to wash the feet of my other pastors. Become their servants, not them becoming my servants. When they become your servants, know that you are a Melanism big man, not a biblical big man. Now, these are the kind of things we brought in here for you to think. How am I going to develop a Melanism ethical theology? We can keep on going and going. There's lots of points to discuss. Let me leave that one. You think through it. Now, his word is the law of the community. That's the second thing we remember. When Jesus Christ is the foundational stone on which Melanism ethic must be built, Jesus first one, Jesus is the big man. Second, his word is the law. No any other laws. His word is the law, by which we develop theology. And his word, I cannot explain or talk more on it because it's the scriptures. We build on God's word. Scriptures. The third thing is his life. He is the life of the community. So which means all of us, our life is connected to his life. Just think about a community that live Christ life. Everyone is living like Christ. What would be the community like? Just think about everyone is looking out for each other's interest, not personal interest. Now every time fights and quarrels and everything is happening because everyone is looking for themselves. Now if everyone, and especially Christian church, starts to look for one another's life and try to take care of each other, I think we won't have plenty of targets on the road with the Bush Nation ruling the community. I'm just saying. So which means the third is Jesus is the life of the community. Fourth, he is the hope of the community. Now I'm thinking about the term hope and I started thinking, what do we mean hope? Hope. Yeah, go ahead. Give the mic. Give me there's something to say. There's a comment from Bunch.
It's the kind of a future reward.
A future reward, hope.
Hope.
Right? Anything else?
Freedom from doubt. You know that the thing will happen.
All right? Having in mind that you are sure that something will happen. Confidence? Yeah, Pastor Michael.
Hoping is something that there's no lie in it.
Okay, there is no lie in it. It's truth. Hope.
When you say he's the hope of the community, it would mean as long as he is there, things will go well.
Now, I'd like to use stories to help. Sometimes hope and faith kind of seem like similar in their meanings. If you read through it, there's some overlaps to it, but they're similar. Hope is something that, how would I put it? Now, I'd like to paint a little illustrative story to help us see. Now, hope is like you have an eye, right? You have an eye. But someone comes and gives you another eye to have a look at, right? You have your two eyes, but someone comes and invents another eye to give it to you so that you can look into the future. If you watch a movie, what do they call that movie? There was a movie, Time Machine. If you watch something about Time Machine, you can go back and see what you were like before you are now, or you can go into the future. It's a Time Machine. I don't watch a movie. Now look at that movie and you know how to find that movie. You can probably look for that movie Time Machine and think about a time machine. Now you are here now, but you can see actually what you will become 100 years from now, right? And so you're thinking about that. Now, hoping is much like a time machine. I would want to use it that way. So, although your eyes and it's like faith, they have some of it, you don't see it, but you know. In all your system, you actually know what it is. So you don't doubt it. So hope is something like a time machine. You know it's going to happen. So you hang on to it. You hang on to it. Even people come and say, it won't happen, something like this and that. But you already saw it in the time machine that you will get it. So hope is something like that. So here it says, Jesus is the hope. Jesus is the hope of the community. So which means everything else becomes chaotic and everything else goes whatever, but you know Jesus will come. And he is the hope. When you look at troubles and everything happening, he is the hope that will restore the distorted, the destroyed things. So he becomes your hope. So Jesus is the hope. And then now you look at, political turmoils and all of the troubles happening all around you. But you look beyond that, they don't trouble you. How many of you, the problems happen around you, trouble you? Do they trouble you? Yes. Alan is being truthful, right? They trouble you. But here, when troubles happen, it does not mean real hope is not trouble-free. Real hope is something that happens during the trouble. So you still hope that, yes, I see trouble and everything happening all around you, but Jesus is still my hope. And you remain. Even you dying or someone persecuting you will not stop you, because you still see Jesus as your hope. So Jesus is the hope of the community. So nothing troubles.
Can I just make a point here?
Yeah.
Like when looking back at the apostles, like Peter, James, John, and them, in the days of Book of Acts, they never turned back because they knew that Jesus was their home. Even they banned them and they killed them, but they really motivated them to continue.
Yes, because Jesus is the hope. What they were doing is that
you can kill me, you can destroy, you can whatever you want to do, you can do. But Jesus will still put an end to all those things that happens in this life. If it doesn't happen tomorrow, if it doesn't happen the next day, it will still happen. And that is hope. So Jesus is the hope of the community. Now the final one under that is he is the author and perfecter of our community. Why is he the author of the community?
Life begins from him, and life begins.
Right? Life begins from him. Anyone?
Everyone is given a mission of faith.
Okay, everyone is given a measure of faith. Anything else? Did you know that there are Christians even today arguing that Jesus was not a Christian? There are people who are arguing that Jesus is not a Christian.
I think whenever this word is like these are all kinds of people talk about faith. Like in the community when we have faith in Jesus, it will be like interesting at first, and even to the end, we will keep trusting Him because He begins everything and He will finish everything.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, earlier I said something about there are arguments, and even if you go now and read,
there is an argument that Jesus was not a Christian and he is not a Christian. There are some truths to it. If you follow history and find out, Christian idea is a term coined by persecutors. It was not a term that comes as a result of Christian church coming together and worshiping. No. It was a term coined by persecutors, those who persecute the church. They coined the term Christians. So that's something that we need to know. That's the reason why those who did the history look at us and say, that's not a Christian term. It's a term coined by non-Christians. But now it has become a popular term by which they identify the followers of Jesus Christ, Christians. So those historical contexts, or people digging up those historical facts, are arguing. Yes, they have the history behind them. But at the same time, it is what that was intended for bad has turned out to be the force that took over the world. Sometimes people argue without reading the other side of the same thing they're talking. But it is the same thing that was created as something bad that turned out to be the very force that took over the rest of the world. And that's why the name Christianity itself has been disputed over centuries and even still debating today. To me, yes, he is not a Christian, as we, in that sense, but he is the founder of the Christian church. Now, why is he the author? Because he is the founder of the church. He is the founder of the new kingdom that is here and yet to come. And so that makes him the order of the community. So which means if it is the order, there is something behind it that the church must know. Any church that does not demonstrate the behavior and the life of the order has gone outside of what it's supposed to be. You remember the book of Revelation, the number of churches that they addressed? Some of them have gone outside, some of them they remain. What did he say? Some of them he said, I will speak you out. Because the founder, when he founded the fellowship, he has created a model, and he has become a model by which the church must follow or conform to that model. But think about the many, many churches we have today. Are we conforming to the way and lifestyle of the founder, or what are we doing? Or we come up with our own little styles? Anyway, I just leave it as that. You are a theologian. Take it up. All right, the first part is Jesus Christ is the foundational stone. And I've given you 5 points to look at. You can look at it. The second point is the Christian scriptures must play a nomadic role. You know what nomadic means? Nomadic means continuous, no entry, no society, no time frame, No, nothing can change it. It remains the same forever. That's why it is called nomadic. So, the Christian scriptures must play a nomadic role in the design and development of Melancon Christian ethics. The Word of God. And the first thing it does is play a lead role in guiding our life and practice. It must play a lead role in our life and practice. Now, tell me something about leading role in our life and practice. Me and my team were doing an outreach one Tuesday morning in Willet Town. That time Willet Town actually had a good rain trees that lined up the main street walking up and down the town. It's kind of a some of you have been to Willet, those who've been to Willet, you will know. The sea on this side and sea on the other side, and the street is you start from the sea and end with the sea. That's the thing, main thing. And we had all the rain trees that lined up and provided a nice shade you can go and sit down. So it happened that we went there with our power band things and start the music and big music going on. And I was one of those bridges, raging away on Tuesday morning. It's an outreach. And I remember one Manus fellow from the provincial government, an employee of the provincial government, walked up to me and said something that I never forget. He looks at me and said, "Thank you for the nice message." And he said, "I chew, and I even sometimes drink a bottle of beer. And you guys were preaching about that. And I feel some conviction, but I have something to raise. And this is what he said to me. But the very ones who do not chew and who do not drink, you preach to us what you do not live. What are you trying to tell us? You go and repent, get changed and leave before you go and preach to us. Well, it's a powerful man who's a powerful man. There is truth to what he said. And that's exactly what this point is saying. The point is, it should play a lead role in our life and practice. Because sometimes we are preaching a message that we have never lived. So as a Melancon theologian and leader, and pastor or leader, before I tell people about the Word of God, I must live it first. And then I preach. Because my talk and my life, they run and tell the same story. They don't tell two different stories. I believe the church in Papua New Guinea, most of the Christians, we are living two types of lives. Our tongue speaks one thing and our legs and hands are doing something else. That's about the Christian scriptures must play a nomadic role, which means the first one, it must play a lead role in guiding our life and our practices. You are a pastor, and many of our churches do not necessarily put lots of money in the offering plate on Sunday. Some of you pastors maybe sit again and experience that. Every Sunday you go and count the coins. And I remember the Catholic Church. You know the Catholic Church? Catholic Church, they collect offering. It is not, they don't give it to the pastor. Whatever collection they collect, it goes back to the diocese. The priest actually look after the catechists and look after by the church. It's not one local church looking after, so they collect. So one, I remember, he's a French priest. His name, Matthias Loncha, a Frenchman. I remember very clearly. You know, when the offering plate went around in the Catholic Church, they put the offerings. He went, collected, and find all the 2 toys and 5 toys and 10 toys. And he collect all of them, look at it, and then he turn around, look at the church and say, so our God has now become a 2-toy God, 5-toy God, 10-toy God. And then he threw it, all the coins out the window. He actually threw all the coins, threw them out of the window. Now, this is true, right? In our churches, that's what it is. And so, you are allowed to do your side hustles, they call it sometimes, to take care of it. Not a problem. I'm not saying no. And then you think of buying, and I'm not discouraging you to do it, buying a PMB bus. You have, done other things, little things, and then you save them. And then you buy a PMB bus. I'm not just telling you a story because I've done it already. That's why I'm telling you a story. And so I sold them, we brought them away, and I decided to become only working for God. And then you know that it's a 90,000 for a Toyota Ace or whatever they call it. You bought it. And then now you are making a little money, and then you go down to Ella Motors and you want to buy a new one. You have your one ready. Then they said, I have 70,000. Probably I will keep this money and I'll take it out. And then you want to, negotiate, and the salesman come out and say, Pastor, don't worry. You won't want money. So let's make it. And the deal is that, okay, I'll do some paperwork and you give me a $5 grand. I'll fix it and give you your bus for 7,000. It's a deal now. So the deal looks good, right? It looks good. But in that deal, there's someone who loses something. Now you get the bus, you run to the church and tell people, let us dedicate the new bus. But some under the table dealings has taken place. And you are a pastor, but you didn't realize it. And it happens. Because now your drive to have more has blinded you. And you didn't see it. Although it's too little, but you have compromised your leadership and representation of God in your church and community. You do not realize. This is just a little example when it comes to life and practice. Are you going to remain true? I'm not just telling you this story. Little things you must watch. I graduated with my first degree here, went back home, and I did a lot of business work. I started bringing cocoa seedlings and everything and supply cocoa to the people in the village and build some cocoa fermenteries and 1 or 2 of them, and usually I bought a diner and 300, and then I put a name on it, Salon, right in front of the bus. So Salon. Every time we travel and the boys to post cruise and they run around and they will come in the vehicle at 1 o'clock. Some of them travel. And you know what happened? Sometimes I wait for the vehicle to come quickly and it's not here. I started sweating. Last up So, why am I using my little stories to tell you the story? Because when we talk about manners and ethics, it comes to these little areas that we are not checking against what we are doing. Life and practice. Is it guided by the Bible? Those are things we need to check very carefully. Take the scriptures seriously. Read it and read it. Think of it.
I'm questioning
There's a question from us.
We can one that speak people to
I believe it's in First or Second Corinthians. The Bible says that the preachers of the word should live upon the word. They end their living from the altar. Does that mean that we live by that we will be these help us?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Two things. If you are someone who studied the very one who wrote that book, letter, you will find that he himself can make it. You know what tent making means? Self-support.
Tracking down the road. Side tracking means you're going to use the scriptures to make them put money in the place. Don't do it. You must educate them to love God with who they are. The money, their children, their land, they have. Love God with everything. The reason why I'm saying there's a lot more prosperity theology because of that happening all around us. Papua New Guinea is becoming another African continent. Gospel has become only a means to enrich some people. Be very careful of that. I'm not saying you cannot educate them. And that's what Paul is talking. The gospel must look after the ones who preach the gospel. It means that congregations must be educated to love God with the money as well. Not 10%. The 10% has now become a lot of things. You can do study. At this time, you can question it. I don't preach about 10%. Remember why I don't teach about 10%? This is not a tithing class. It's that because 10% is tied to many different things. And you have to be very, very careful to preach about it. Because 10%, when it is given and you are collecting it, you must be faithfully applying the 10% in relationship to what it is collected for. Because some of our pastors have made the 10% become their private wallet, which is wrong. Because 10% has to cover also plenty of things in the Old Testament. What are some of those things? Widows, aliens, the orphans. If you are not using that money to look after all this group of people, then you are stealing from those people to look after yourself, and you are a criminal in the church. Because you steal it from the pockets of the orphans. You're stealing it from the widows. You are stealing it from people who are from another place living among you. So, giving should be something of generosity, which means if I have plenty of money, I love God with my money. So now when you love God with your money, that money serves and look after someone else. So we educate them to do that. Anyway, because the question is raised. So these are some kind of things we need to educate the church. You just can't come and hear the pastor and expect the pastor to sit down and expect clouds to open and something to fall. No, everyone must look after the pastor. You must at least make a garden for him. I did something like that when my provincial supervisor accused me of manipulating the leadership appointment, and they appointed someone else ahead of him. And he got angry with me right in the center of the town. And I told him, "Leave this to pastor. Leave this to our pastor." I didn't listen to anyone. I said, "Leave this to our pastor." He's like, "I didn't do anything. How can you accuse me?" So which means I told him down and said to him, "So now I know the church is your trade store. So you own it, you hire and fire." So I went home and asked someone from another place to come and become a pastor. And so when he became a pastor, I made gardens for him. I never tell him that you know garden. I actually plant arrows for him and cowbell for him, and when it is ready. And Sunday morning after service, I would say, "Oh, your garden is ready." And he said, "Ah, there's a your garden is ready. Why you have it? Send your wife to go and harvest." No, you look after the pastor. It's not just money. You can help him care for things for him. Something like that. Now, the church is responsible to look after the pastor. You must help educate the church to know. Sometimes pastor of the church himself will be a saint. The other leaders of the church, the congregational chairman, the treasurer, and other leaders must talk about it. They must talk to the church and say, "We must look after our church pastor." Things like this should happen. Yeah. So you must hold both of them together, but making sure you're a pen maker, you are not making it become rich. You are making whatever you're making to cater for yourself and also the need of the church. If you have that plan and clear in your mind, you can do a lot of little businesses. You will be on the right track. You'll be doing it honorably with whatever you do. All right. Maybe I'll leave it here, and you can take a little break and then come back. Let's try and finish this one. We're taking a break. Oh, did we use our most ones? All right, we can start. We before we look at the last part of the first part of our course, earlier on I talked about power and authority. The term for authority in Greek is exousia, means continuous power and dunami. So that's the word, exousia. Now when we talk about hope, Jesus is our hope. It means he is our assurance. He is our assurance. Right? Let's look at the last part, and last half is the Christian community as an organic whole.
Sorry, based on power and authority, I'm confused about Jesus being you mentioned earlier that Jesus was not a Christian. And then it was later when persecutors say something on that line. Last week we learned that according to John's Gospel, chapter 1, verse 14, 16, and 17, we learned that Christ has been the model for our Christianity. So now you told us that you never be a Christian. Yeah, so please can you emphasize a bit more on that? Thank you, sir.
All right. I said something about the arguments today.
Yes.
That's what we talk about. There is an argument, ongoing argument in history and even today. People are
Yes.
Jesus was not a Christian.
Yes.
And he was, and I tried to explain that, yes, he didn't give the church Christians. It was a name coined by persecutors. The persecutors coined the term Christians. It was for bad intentions. They called Christians, followers of Jesus Christians, for bad intentions. But the very name that they use it for bad intentions has become the very name that changed the rest of the world. And so some historical figures and others who are arguing and saying that I am not necessarily supporting that argument. And I said that the Christian name was actually used to demean Christianity. But again, that name that was used for bad intentions happened to become the very name that saved the world. So that's what happened in history. So as a result, although Jesus may not be, in terms of the argument, a Christian, but what he founded is the very thing upon which the world is built on at the moment, because a lot of Christian teachings have changed a lot of social thinking and everything that we have around different kind of social movements were actually born out of that concept Christians stood on. Although they may have gone and become worldly, but the basis in the deep, it comes from Christian beliefs and what Christians stood for. And so I said, the Christian church, and I said Jesus is the author, meaning that he's the founder of the Christian church, whether they are in it otherwise. Is that clear?
Thank you.
Brought up because those are some things you will come across some arguments. That's why I put them on. So you are made aware of arguments that are out there. Does that have clarified?
Thank you.
Yeah. The term Christianity was actually coined by persecutors and not by the followers of Christ. And that term, that coined for evil, turned out to be the very term that conquered the world. Does that help?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's finish up the last part of the first part of the course. A Christian community has an organic whole. Now we think about community because we covered that sometime back for the two gentlemen who joined us. You may have missed out on that, and we may not go back there. The importance of community. We talk about that. Now, in developing Melanesan Christian ethics, we must see the community as an organic whole, which means the church must be seen as a community. And that means three things. One, it must become the cradle for character development. You know what a cradle is?
Originated.
Okay.
Originate.
Originated. Cradle is, if you look at a mother with a baby, they normally create something for a baby to sleep in. Right?
Bad for
That's a cradle. Which means if you remember the story of Jesus was born, they put him in a cradle. Now the community must become that cradle for the development of character, which means the church must become that baby place to help form Christian character. But then you look at the church today as a form of community, do we have the ability to look after Christians like little babies and bring them into becoming strong disciples of Christ? Sometimes in the churches you will now find that it's like we are baby feeding them almost every Sunday morning. So we write up sermons that make them feel like they are in somewhere in cloud nine every day. So when you stop preaching like that, they leave you and go and look for someone to give them the baby milk again. So Christians jump from church to church, looking for milk. That's what's happening. Because we are not helping them to grow, because they don't like to grow. It's just the way it is. Now you will find that Christians in different churches, most likely in your church, you observe they love evangelistic messages more than teachings. And as a result, the church remains baby forever. I think I read a book somewhere in Brussels or somewhere in South America, a Pentecostal pastor that has the church over 3,000. His congregation is over 3,000. I think I read the book, maybe still inside. I don't know. But many years ago, I read the book and I forgot. But he's always happy. He's a happy man. And every time he all goes up to the mountain, it's a kind of a discipleship book. Every time he goes up to the mountain and pray and thank God for his huge congregation, and because his congregation members are over 3,000. And then one time he was praying and he got a message that really troubled him. Because the message he got while praying was that you don't have a church. You have an orphanage. And he was troubled with it. And then he came back and he didn't sleep well. And then he went back another time and said, I'm troubled. You said, I have an orphanage, not a church. And I'm here, please explain to me. And then he said, you go back to the church. He kind of heard from God again. And he said, you go back to the church. This time, you tell people to come and ask for volunteers to come and clean the church. Or probably fix something for the church. And then, only 3 people turn up. I can't remember the full story, but I still remember the book I read. Only 3 turn up. And then when he went back and prayed and said, only 3 turn up. And he said, that's the only 3 you have. So you don't have 3,000 plus. What's wrong with the church? He got all the immature Christians that fill the church. And he only had 3 strong Christians. And that's when he decided to look for ways to teach them. It is teaching that develops character, not evangelism messages. Evangelism messages is for the outside, not for the church. You go preach preach evangelism to give birth to new people. Now, after giving birth, you bring them to the church to feed them well. That's when they grow healthy and strong. But our churches in Papua New Guinea, I don't know your churches, but my church is full of babies, including my pastors are babies. Truly. And so, as a community, we learn to build, and develop people to develop character in the church. That is one of our work to do. The second thing is a cradle for intimate fellowship. Learning to carry each other instead of fighting each other in the church. Those of you who are seated here, I have plenty of stories. Because in my church, pastors fight each other. When one is given position, the other things are going elsewhere and creating his own little position. Is it happening?
Yes.
Oh no. I thought it was only me. Some will go and start their own church because you didn't give it to them. Because there is no intimate fellowship among the Christians, among the community. Now, what do I mean by intimate fellowship? You remember the text that we read for our exercise for this week? What was the text? Ephesians 4:8.
Whatever,
Now,
whatever
he
people,
said that after trying to fix problem between two young ladies in the church, they fought each other for something, disagreement. And when they were disagreeing, I believe he didn't just write, maybe the leaders and everyone else has chose their camps. Some may have chosen CBTs and some have UODR. And they were trying to fight. And so he comes down and says, why not thinking about godly things? Why not thinking about honesty? Forget about these little things. Hold your family together. But no, even within the church. I have seen a half of the church moved out when a new pastor was elected. Because the one they put up and wanted to become the pastor was not voted. And half of the church moved out and started their own church and take their pastor with them. What kind of church are we living in Papua New Guinea? See the kind of things that happen? So, as members and pastors and leaders sitting in the ethics class, what do we do? The church, we must educate so that it becomes a place to nurse intimacy. When people are in trouble, don't look for one to blame or to shoot each other down. Bring them together, sit down, talk together, love one another, and build that intimate relationship. Because when the church begins to love itself and take care of itself, it becomes a message to the community. Didn't Jesus say that to us? What did he say in John chapter 13? He gave a new command to the church. What is the new command? Some of you, it's your memory verse, I know. A new command I give you, that you love one another, so that the world will know that you are my disciples. Now, this is where it comes in. The community, loving one another, build an intimate fellowship. And that intimate fellowship itself is a message to those who surround you. So the community must become something like that. And then the next one is similar to the one set up there. It becomes a cradle for Christian witness. Our life together preaches louder than life individual. Our life together is the biggest testament in the community we live in. Our life together is the biggest weakness in the community we live in. All right, that ends our first part of the course. Are you happy?
Not happy.
Yes.
You're not happy? I'm happy.
If you don't understand me, I'm happy.
The
The
reason is
reason
that
is
when
that
you
when
don't
you do not
understand
understand
me,
me,
work
you
really
work
hard
really
and
hard and
go and learn.
That's why I'm happy when you don't understand me. Because people who do not understand are the ones who want to pick up and find out more. So in doing so, they learn even more than me. It's a good way. When people disagree with me, I am happy. Because the ones who disagree are the ones who will work hard to disagree with me. Because the more they work hard to disagree with me, they learn more. And they will agree with me. All right. We're jumping straight into our second part of the course. We will introduce it, introduce the second part, and then we're coming to the practical part of it now. We have talked so much theory. Now, how do you apply your theories in real life? That is what we will look at now. The second part, it says contemporary ethical issues. You will do some presentations on some of these issues. If we do not cover well, you will do your research and teach one another, including me, when you do your presentation in some of these subjects. This part of the course looks at some specific issues affecting our society. We will make a survey of some issues and try to develop ways to address the issues theologically and biblically. Theologically and biblically, please put another arrow white when you have the chance to have the notes in a Melvinist way. And the first part we will look at is religious issues. Now, on religious issues, the first one is witchcraft and sorcery. Is it an ethical issue? Is it a problem?
Yeah.
A social issue? Now,
Yeah.
I believe you have covered quite a lot of the material out there. We talked about it. Now, how do you develop theologies to address these issues? Because these are issues affecting society as a whole. You are not a Christian.
Do you know that just recently they jailed a prayer warrior in Lake?
Did
You read
you
the
read
news?
the news?
A police,
Yes.
they did his CID, some worked really hard. And the prayer warrior was
convicted and she was jailed. Happened news. The prayer warrior actually after praying pinpoint Asanuma Mary and they killed the baby. And so now they investigated and found out and she's not jailed. Now, can you see that as pastors can become something like that? This is a prayer warrior. How many of you think this is a prayer warrior? I am sometimes afraid of them. Because sometimes they come and speak messages that the Bible doesn't even say. But the rest of us follow with it. You remember the story I told you sometime back? That one church prayer warrior met the whole church group and they went and pulled out some white powder and they went to court and they charged the church to pay the one they accused 3,000 kina compensation. Think about the church being implicated for that. Is it really Jesus a witch hunter? Did Jesus come into the world to hunt the witch? Now, if he's the foundation, and when we talk about sorcery, why are Christians becoming witch hunters? Go ahead, give it there.
In my church, there are a group of ladies, women, who go around and pray over sick people. Among them, there's maybe 2 or 3 people. After praying, they will suck out something out from that person where the pain is. They will just move their hands around their body, around the sick person's body, and find something there. They will shake it around with their hands and catch it, and it will come out from the mouth or somewhere.
They will spit it out and say,
Yeah, it's like fish bone, pig bone, something like that. Is it biblical or is it?
You have to work it out. Because we are talking about Melanesian ethics. I wanted us, when we're looking at these things, I wanted us to go back to what we have looked at. What is our foundation in ethics? Is it from some of those things or Christ? If it is Christ, did Christ go and bite people to remove stone from their skin?
No.
I have to raise a question. That's why we have to use this one. So that you learn. I have plenty of stories to tell you.
2016, 17, yeah. I went home. And my brothers and my other brother's son, and they were using this Operation Pining Posin. I went home. And they were carrying a cross. Wherever the cross, it's happening in the Pacific. I don't know whether it happened in other parts of there. Cross will guide them to find the Posin man and Sanguma man and all that. They were coming. And when they were coming, carrying the cross, and the cross is kiting them, actually it's very heavy and it's pulling them. And one revival person, he was actually, now he's not. He left the AOGs. He ran ahead of them. He knew that I was home. I went for, my mom died. I was in New Zealand and my mom died. So I went for a morning and was there. And he knew I was there on a Tuesday morning. And they were carrying the cross, and the cross was, they were already breaking someone's house. And I don't know what they found, and they followed that cross.
And they're coming toward my little hand. And he knew. And he quickly ran. And he was sweating. He came and just sat close to me. And I looked at him and said, "Are you sweating?" And he looked at me and said, "Yeah, I'm just sweating." He didn't tell me the cross. The people was there for Operation Pining Posin coming. And I just said this thing. And then when you will see that cross they carry, and they were singing and, coming. And they were coming toward us. And he was just sitting down. You know what a cross did? He came straight to my little hamlet at the border between my hamlet and my uncle's hamlet. The cross quickly turned from there and break the bush, and everyone was running in the bush. And this one stood up and said, "You are false prophet, you are false prophet." Look at him and said, "Hey, you also believe." And then, now I know why he ran ahead of him. Because he wanted to accuse him. He said, "You are false prophet, you are false prophet." And I said, "Why are you saying the false prophet? I know this thing will come here. When it comes see you, it will turn and go somewhere. Look at it, starts going to the bush." It's a real life.
Okay.
And then now he was something, all of false prophets. But you see the kind of things? We empower
Yeah.
a sorcerer to practice his sorcery. Who empowers it? We empower it. How do we empower it? Because we fear. Now, when you fear, you empower it. When you do not fear, this thing does not work.
No.
I don't fear something. I don't fear society. Because I've seen them fail in my own eyes. They didn't fail. I have a story to tell you, the recent story I went to. One mission place in my where I went, I will not tell you. I went, the first night they fetched water for me to wash just beside the house. First night. I didn't know about it. Then I said, thank you. The next morning, I woke up and I was looking for the district leader to go and look for a place to wash. And he said, no, you stay home, they're going to bring you water. And I said, I think you can't hear me. For someone to fetch water for me to wash or something. Take me to where you go to wash us. So we go there. I didn't know the water sitting. And in the night, the toilet was quite fun. I come on the night. And one of our council members, his wife was continually telling him, hey, this problem there. When the big problem, the water is not enough. Someone is saying, we know the law, we make down. You know what's wrong with me? I didn't know. In the morning, I said something about something. And then he came, sit up, look at his wife and started laughing. And then he looked at his wife and said, you see, I told you already, this fellow does not hear our son. The Zangumas can come, they will never touch him. Is it the kind of things? Because they really fear me going and staying there and making sure that nothing happens to me. And then night, I go and watch, I run around doing whatever I want, but the rest, they were afraid going to the toilet by themselves in the night. Is it the kind of things that happen? Once you fear, that someone works. But the thing is, according to witchcraft and sorcery, common manners and perceptions, when you look at it, there are a few things built into it and some things that will lead to why it was practiced. Those are kind of things you need to know. In order to help you to have some understanding to address things like that. Here are some things for you to think about. Social control. That was a counter practice, but now people do something for whatever things they like. Traditionally, it was social control. It's like a police force. Did it happen? It was a police force. So which means young people are afraid of someone, so they keep themselves in line. So they didn't lead at the expense of another. Because they know if you lead at the expense of another, someone will make sure they discipline you. Those are some things that were put in place. Sometimes it was used for revenge, right? In my place, in language, they would say something like, during the day, if you do something wrong, they would say, the night one is second. They know that. They know the expression. So, but in my place, you can't see people running around and looking to kill someone. But up in the highlands, I don't know where they kill someone. Especially most women have become victims of that. Well, men are killing one another. Now, the thing is that they think that this lady is the one killing them. No, you're not killing a innocent lady. Because you cannot kill the spirit at work. If you kill that one, it can use one other one to do the same thing. Oh, Pastor Levi is here. I think 2013, something like that happened to one of our council presidents. And he came
and asked me and said, please come and talk to the people. I went on there and we bring people and talk to them, and they raised quite a lot of questions to help them understand, because they were trying to go after the Sangoma people. I said, no, Sangoma, you are killing your one dog, you are not killing a Sangoma. So stop wasting time killing your one dog. So I actually went down, and Pastor Levi is here because he's the one who came up here and said, can you come and talk to the people? So I went down. I took my children and we went down there and we talked to the people about Sangoma, and I said, you are killing your brother, your sister, your auntie, your uncle, and you create more problem for yourself. You will never kill a Sangoma. You can try your best. Every time you try to kill a Sangoma, you are killing your own one dogs. They are only using, that spirit uses anybody, whatever happens. So that's not a way to solve the problem. The way to solve the problem is not to believe in it. If you believe it, it works. If you don't believe it, it does not work. So, and then nowadays,
they're using for monetary purposes. Now, if you look at it, people are hiding it and they practice Sanuma for money. That was not the main purpose for Sanuma, I believe. It was used mainly for revenge and policing in the community. But now, money. So sometimes when it becomes money, someone can even trick you as a Sanuma person, come and bite the skin and give you some stones, which maybe he put it somewhere in his mouth, and then you pay him and he's gone. It's happening. It happened in my place. My brother's wife died. She died because of womb cancer. And they brought someone from India. They call him a classman. Classman. Right? The classman came and they said, all of your brothers must come and contribute. Certain amount. And then he will collect the money slip, and the next morning he will tell you who actually poisoned the money. And every one of them were, and I was in my garden. Every brother and they go and contribute to the money, and they're waiting for me. And they said, we must wait. This fellow will bring the last money, and then you can sleep and wake up. And then I sent one of my sons and told him to go and tell my brothers, maternal and my biological brothers, my maternal cousins. They were all together. They said, we are waiting for the pastor to come. Pastor, but I didn't want to do that. So I actually said to my son, go and tell them that suppose la mania lu face lo is la spirit jaman iba baru lu. Jaman spirit some jaman lu face lo baru lu. That was what I said. So we are really glad of it because we can't lu face lo the spirit lu baru lu. I said that and
they've already collected over 800 kina. Now night only sleep it, mania loose. He took off. Morning only kira pani name. I'm out finished. What the money in karang take up? House lo bibla stop close to sa main highway. Main highway. He took off. Mikono morning looking more big money. All the guy can talk no good finish. Or talk no good in class money. Behind now, ni sutin talk logom na naroon na brother even talk logom na karamanya kami na. Do you make it work with the money? See the kind of things that are happening? Some things are not real, but we believe in unnecessary things. And they think that they have power to control us. So those are some main reasons why sorcery is practiced. Now if these are the main reasons, how do we help them understand? That's the question I throw it back at you. How do we help them understand? Because as we speak, many still live in the fear, although they say they are Christians, but they live in the fear of all these things. We have to help them. We have to find ways to do that. You're still thinking. That's a
That's a good thing. Some of us have actually, knowing or unknowingly, bring in our cultural way of doing things into the church. One of them is what we have said, because that's exactly our classroom ideas in my case. The person will come and talk to you and eventually invite you or fulfill you and then pull something out and say, this is the fifth one. It's our cultural things. But plenty are now bringing those things into the church. And they're using it in the church without properly and quickly to check whether it is the right thing to do. They're doing it. Now you see the cross, as I've told you. The city people know about the bamboo. We use bamboo to find something. They're not using the cross in the same manner. In some parts of our city plains, you can talk to the bamboo. I felt it. Once you talk to the bamboo, when those spirits feel the bamboo, that light bamboo could become very, very heavy. It needs to climb on the hands of many because it's very, very heavy. And those spirits are in the bamboo to control the bamboo to go wherever the bamboo will go. But now they imported those practices into the church.
For us in Medi, we have normally called it thorn. We use the bamboo. Okay. Spirit in the
Yes. Did you know that one of our lecturers here, he was a CBC man, David Becker. He was in the city river when they were practicing it. He, without knowing it, came out and said, okay, they wanted to find someone who actually killed someone. And they were, doing their thing and had the bamboo, and when the bamboo was about to run through the hands of the men who were putting their hands like this, so the bamboo would run on. He stood right in front of them and looked at them and said, let me pray first, and then we go and look for the Solomon. As soon as he prayed, the bamboo became light, and the bamboo refused to move. You're a Christian? Do not fear those things. Yeah, it happens. Simply say, I think so, I see you. I'm here in Christ. I'm not for you to run. Mm-hmm. I tell you what to do and you do what I want. I've experienced plenty of things. I don't teach you because I didn't do it. I know it happens. It happened to me, and I'm still here. All right. Find out the reasons. Look for ways. How do you help them? If it was used for social control, is there a better way, scripturally, we can help them with that? And then develop theology to help social control. Does the church, does the Bible have a way of developing that? Can the Bible teach that? Yes. Change your mindset. Educate people to renew your mind. And when a person's mind is renewed and he's in tune with God, would he run around with clever plans? No, he will not. Because he will fear God and love those who surround him. Now, when he fears God and loves those who surround him, would he do evil to them? No, he will not. So the church does have the ability to change. And social control wouldn't be a problem because we will be loving one another. You remember the cradle? The church becomes the cradle of character development and all these things. This is where the church comes in and help young people, educate them. Get them away from things that are not necessarily true. They are there, but they are not true. Our time is running away. And how biblical perspectives on witchcraft. It is a detestable practice. Detestable practice. And you can find that. A demonic practice, disobedience, and evil power. That's how the Bible paints the picture on witchcraft and sorcery. Is any group presenting on that one? Any group presenting on sorcery?
Must be, yes. Representing on sorcery.
For most team is presenting on sorcery. We will not spend a lot of time on it because they will present something on it. Okay? We must allow for them to do their research and do the presentation. Is that all right? So we're just going to quickly jump over it, say some things, and jump over it. If we go in detail, then we don't give them the chance to do the research and do the presentation. So basically, that's something about sorcery we can talk about. And then the Bible perspective is very clear on witchcraft and sorcery. First, it is detestable. Second, it is demonic. Third, it is disobedience. And fourth, it is evil. Now, Christians and witchcraft in Malaysia. Do we have? Recently, there is a number of students, I think 14 of them, in custody from a high school somewhere in our country. I think they did something and killed a grade 9 boy, and they have been expelled from school and probably in police custody or in I don't know where. And mostly, and those practices are real. High schools have those practices, right? It's kind of a resurgence of witchcraft and witchcraft practices. Especially young people are trying to explore, trying to find out. If you start doing those practices, you can see the effect of it, but they will control you. Those things will control you. I can tell you in 1986, 87, yeah, somewhere there, I was a student at Biologist College. Those of you from Broadway, you know Biologist Colleges. Now they have a diploma. That time it was a certificate in primary education. I was there as a student teacher. I'm not student teacher, but a student. And we stayed there and we do have our RI programs. And in our RI program, something was introduced to us. And we tried it in our dormitory and it worked. And we were afraid, so we threw all those things away. We did something and it actually happened. They brought us some kind of books and things. And we used the books and did some meditation on those things and light the candles and hey, what we're doing in our room and we can see the bottle moving. Hey, we were afraid. And we shut everything up and we didn't want to do it again. We were afraid. And this is the kind of things, resurgence. So our young people are trying to do it, and it's already happening in our schools, secondary schools and School of Excellence. One of my nephew who is now a teacher, secondary school teacher, he was also involved when Maxon was included, practicing that. What by bumping whenever frost floor, fighting frost. Now fighting frost on the return point then, now 14 plus 2 PDD on experiment now with the one. And sort of things like that happening. Research is happening. It's a spiritual interest. If the church does not rise and help educate young generation, youth and people, there's going to be resurgence in the younger generations. They want to experience the spiritual feeling and spiritual things. And that means the churches must work hard to educate the younger generation and those who are sitting in the church about spiritual activities. Fear, complacency. We are not doing anything about it. The church also fears those things. And as one way or the other, the pastors also support and harm the witches instead of helping. In 2014, a young lady was burned in Mount Sagan. An Anglican lady. The pastors were behind it and supported it for that to happen. They're thinking that by burning the young lady, they are burning the devil. You do not kill a devil. You do not burn. The only way to stop them is not to believe in it. If you don't believe in it, they won't practice it. In my place, if you go to my place, village, we are known for doing things like that in the city plains. Some of our sangumas that can travel far. Some sangumas, you have to bring a person or bring an object to be there to make it happen. But some sangumas travel far. Some sangumas from where I come from, the city plain, my wife, they don't have sanguma, they only have society from the eastern part. But from my part and onward down the plains, we have that sanguma that travels. They can transform and come as an animal. They can fly and come here and do their job, complete it and go back. When you have a chance of George speaking, you ask him to tell you about the book coming. Ask him, he will tell you. They call it Bubukan. It's a civic river one. Now, when they try to take you away, it's a canoe you're hopping on, but it's a crocodile. As soon as you are in the middle of the river, it turns and becomes crocodile, and you become submarine. They carry you out of the river, underwater, and bring you wherever they want to take you to. That's practices. So submarine, these big countries develop them, but the civics already have their submarine. Way before the powerful countries create the submarine. Now, it's not only that. If you go to our place, we know when the ones from Ambundi and the one from the Pacific River Basin comes to our places, you must not dig drains. In the highlands, I'm very sorry because you dig plenty of drains. When a river basin person comes and sees you drains, you will cover the drain. And you will say, hey, that's a water we're trying to drain water, no, cover it. Because you are creating a walkway for a Pubukan. If you keep drains, Pubukan will follow the drain and come straight to your house. But do we kill each other because of Bubu? No, because we don't fear them. They don't practice it for the sake of practicing it. They practice it for a cause. And if you're not a troublemaker, you don't need to fear. They can come, they just come around, go around and let you go. They won't harm you. Because you're not harming them. So those are practices, are good practices. But we work with them and we live before them. In my village, people fear me. They fear me because they think that I'm a Samuman. Really? Because lots of things happen in my life and they show it, so they think that I'm a Samuman. Many things happen. The first thing that happened, my family. Samuma attacked us for 3 years. My wife almost left me because of that. This is from the eastern part, I'm from the western part. It's something new to her. Think about log clothes, our log drums. You just go open it and everything inside is plastic. Someone just spread them like plastic. She buys a bale of rice, go up to the house, leave it there. When she comes out, the bale of rice follows her down. Someone ripped off and poured the whole rice. She's sorry. She saw Bush Nash standing up and dancing around. Levi, what do you think of this name? Bush Nash standing up and dancing around. People are really, I wasn't born there. She was there with the children. They came because all of our things were this way. She tried to look for, and then people were coming around and sitting down with them, and because I refused to bow down to their demands. I refused. So they tried to intimidate me. And one of my uncles came and brought this long Bushnell, probably 1 meter. They sit down and talking, and when they were talking, the Bushnell stood up and started dancing. Everyone ran for their life. The other time she went, our coats and pants, everything was all split and split. Invisible forces destroying. She went and poured up my rice pot. She wanted to cook rice. Put rice inside, water, put it in fire, she lift the pot, put it on, razor cutting paper. Rice on the water. It happened. I arrived and they said, you will have to contribute 20 kina. So when you look whether the salon was the counter, and I said, I will never waste my 20 kina on that salon. My mother, my brother, was really angry with me. And I said, I will never go around with this thing. Let them do whatever they want to do. I still believe in God. But after 3 years, it happened. Everything just stopped. And then the rumor quickly ran. This is the money around the sun, in person of Paulo Butao, Paulo Ravolo, and she wanted to have it. They made me look like a Saruman. The night everything changed. The lady who actually practiced it was turned into more like a dog. Yes. Can you go and buy a plastic dog and you can play around with your necks and hands? You can tell them, can you like this or put it this way. You can do it the way you want it. That lady happened to pick on something like that. Did I do it? No. It was a testimony. That lady woke up in the morning with all her legs and hands this way. She sits down in front, you see her face and all this, but her leg and hands were all over the bed. When she died, they buried her face down because her legs and hands began to head down. Face down and legs and hands are coming up this way. That's the way they buried her. Now that actually created fear in the community. They think that I'm a Samuman. I tell you, if you don't hear them, and have Jesus Christ as the only one who found. The some of us will see you and me. It happened. So that's the reason why I'm teaching you this course. Do not fear him. It's alive together. Anyway, I told you this one. Our time is up. All right, do not fear. And faithlessness allows for that to happen. Christians and witchcraft and revolution. As a resurgence of witchcraft now, because we are complacent, fear is controlling us. And at the same time, faithlessness. We do not trust God when it matters. Trust God when it matters. I will stop here. We will come back on Thursday. I have some minutes left. Oh, I have stolen some of your time. 2 minutes of your time stolen. I will steal another 2 minutes. Is that all right? Okay. There's going to be some changes in the household matters. First, our presentation falls on the 10th. Is that correct?
10th, I won't be here. There is going to be a church conference in Goroka.